You're listening to Brave Girls with Tracy M., where we choose to empower you to be a better leader, mentor, and coach in the world. We'll share stories of people who have achieved great heights by overcoming adversity and rising to the challenge, all while pursuing their passions. These courageous people will inspire you to have faith in yourself and take bold action. Right here with the host of Brave Girls, Tracy M.
Episode 64, Happily Resilient with Martine De Luna. Meet my first guest from the Philippines, Martine De Luna. And just a heads up, her kids are in the background having a really good time while we chat, so let the good times roll. Formerly a lifestyle blogger, consultant, and teacher, Martine is now a brand strategist and transformational mindset coach to women all around the globe. A true entrepreneur, Martine is a trendsetter and a disruptive force in the Asia-Pacific region that I've come to know over the past 2 years. She shares the brave girl journey that she's been on and the adjustments she's made through the world of self-development, network marketing, and her bold vision for her life. A student of Bob Proctor, Martine has internalized all that she's learned from him, and now she helps her clients shift their mindsets so they can be happily resilient, just like she is. She shares her journey as a performance coach and online marketer and what she focuses on when she works with her clients. I've watched Martine's journey over the past few years, and I've seen her absolutely soar with her program offerings and her services. Martine believes that focusing on developing the right habits and behaviors is what will set you free. I love how all of the things that Martine has done in the past have now resulted in her success today. Martine has no regrets on her journey and routinely remembers her difficult times to ground herself. She openly shares her spiritual views and the shifts she has consciously made over the years and where she is today in her belief system. Martine also shares her views on the power of forgiveness and how it can invite abundance into your life. She also shares her opinions on mindfulness and meditation and why spiritual fitness will become the new normal. Martine shares the concepts of unschooling that she and her family practice and how it works for them. I think you'll love her answer to my finale question regarding the bravest thing she's ever done and how it inspires her today. I'm so happy that you can now meet my good friend, Martine De Luna.
So welcome to Brave Girls with Tracy M. Today, I'm very excited. I have my first guest from the Philippines, Martine De Luna. And she's a mindset and personal brand coach for women. And I've gotten to know her through Jenny Fennick and her Get Gutsy Coach Training School, as well as her Magic Maker program. So welcome to the show, Martine.
Hey, Tracy. Thanks for having me. I'm so psyched.
I'm psyched for you to be here. And I'm just so grateful that you took the leap of faith and joined Jenny's world and her program, and I got to know you. And so tell us a little bit about your backstory.
Okay. Well, prior to my experience as a Get Gutsy coach, I used to be a lifestyle blogger. So I became a lifestyle blogger. This was my work after I had been teaching. I had been teaching it was an unusual job. I was the supervising teacher of a homeschool co-working space, which I co-created back in 2003. And in that space, I really learned a lot about basically how to create any kind of job that you felt needed to be created to serve a need of people. And I went into blogging with that framework as well. So in 2010, I resigned from that job. I had a 6-month-old son. I had been married for 2 years, and I decided I would become a work-at-home mom. Simultaneously, I also started a blog, which ended up becoming quite successful here in my country and in my region. So that blog put me in a place of influence as a parent. So it was a blog for work-at-home moms. It was called Dainty Mom. I've since retired that. Somebody else uses it now. And then I was doing that for around 5 years until the birth of my second child. So I had a daughter in 2015. That's when I also pivoted. I started blogging under a new name and a new brand called Make It Blissful. At that time, it had evolved into a lifestyle blog from a parenting blog. And I really made it like a hub for creatives. After my daughter was born, though, I had a crisis. I had a personal crisis, kind of like an existential crisis, where I got depressed. And it seemed like when that happened, it triggered like a domino effect in the family. So my husband lost his job. We were on a single income. We had to move out of the house that we were in. We had to make adjustments so that we wouldn't fall through the cracks. And this brought me into the world of self-development, because I really felt that the only way I could get out of where I was if I could find people who had been in similar situations and had pulled through. So that opened me up to mentoring and coaching. Interestingly enough, the first thing that I found was network marketing. It was the easiest avenue because low startup costs, we needed the money, and I had a big vision to not feel like a loser anymore. So I did that consistently for 2 years. And by 2017, I had become fascinated with all that I had learned, the kind of mindset that I had developed. And I said, I'd like to develop this a little more. That's when I started to look into coaching. And it wasn't until 2018, though, in May, that I stumbled upon Jenny, apparently by accident, because her ads don't run in my region. So
Right.
she and I found each other, and I ended up being her first student from Asia for Get Gutsy Coach Training School. And since then, things have just been working out seemingly like in synchronicity and flow. And I really believe it's because things in my mind and in the way I view the world changed. And now I feel I can really live that name of my website, make it blissful to the full.
Right. And so now you coach other women on their mindset, and
Yes.
then you've developed this personal brand of Martine De Luna.
Yes.
So you're able to teach them all the marketing things that you've learned as you've kind of gone on your journey. So you're the teacher before you were the student, and now you're the teacher. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, I took basically this example from I don't know if you're aware of Bob Proctor, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So Bob Proctor, he has a famous story that he always tells in his seminars, and he says, when I was reading this book, Think and Grow Rich, and I went from $4,000 a year to making $100,000 a year in a span of 1 year, he said, I wanted to know how I did it. I had and then he created his seminars, and now he's like a very successful, he's one of the pioneers in the personal development space. I listened to that and I said, well, maybe I could do something where I don't just help women to change their mindset, but I can actually help them to package this person that they are, market themselves, and earn from doing what they love. So I had always been doing this as a blogger. So I didn't mention that when I was a blogger, I was also a consultant for people who wanted to develop their personal brand. It was something that I had developed very well, and that's why my blog was very successful at the time. So during those 6 years that I was blogging, I was also a consultant to several of the bloggers here in the region. By region, I mean Southeast Asia. Right. So I remember I had about 200 clients in the span of those 6 years that I was consulting while blogging. And I said, well, maybe I could package this and include it as part of my coaching. So now my coaching programs are all about, first, let's work on the mindset. Let's find a framework to sustain that. And then your personal brand is built on this very confident self-image of you. Because when you know your self-image and when you like her, when you look at her and want to develop her, kind of like nurture her and nourish her, then your personal brand shows up very authentically. You don't feel like you have to force or fake anything, because your self-image expressed in your work, expressed in your kind of service, even in the way you run your home and your household, it's all connected. And that's why I think that when my clients work with me on this, they also tend to experience this level of ease, even efficiency, as they run their lives, even run their homes and raise their kids. And that was from really piecing together things that I seem to be doing naturally well in those two phases of my life. So what I call the pre-bliss phase. And then now when I am really living consciously. Because before I think I was living unconsciously and just doing things that I was good at. But when you become aware that you have something that you are good at and you reframe it so that you can deliver that to others and help them, form their own framework for bliss and for freedom, then suddenly it doesn't become work anymore, but it becomes a mission. I think it's my mission to help as many women as possible to find freedom. And you find that when you have a growth mindset, and then to create bliss on a daily basis. And creating bliss just means that you are happily resilient. There are things and challenges going on, but you're able to be resilient. So much so that maybe a person will not even know that you're going through a difficult time, and you don't contribute to lowering somebody's vibration. So that really is the key to what I call the bliss strategy, which is the name of my program.
I think you need to trademark happily resilient.
I do. I have to find a way to do that in my region. I know how to do it in the US. Ironically, I have to do that here. Yes.
Right. So what's one of the biggest obstacles that you see when you first start working with people that they have to overcome in terms of their mindset?
Okay. Well, usually it's their worldview. So I have a lot of people inquiring and saying, it's so inspiring what you've achieved. What would it take for me to be able to do that? And I always reply, well, what is it that you want? What do you really want? And I find that maybe 90% of people aren't able to articulate what they really want. Maybe they'll say, I just want some security. I just want to be able to pay my bills and not be in debt. And for me, fulfilling those areas are just a byproduct. Like, those will happen. But if you say what you really want, if you say, I want to have a 3-day work week so that I have more time fully immersed as a mother, then you start creating ideas in your mind to enable that. And then the bills get paid, and then the debts get paid, which is what happened to me actually when, for example, I went to Get Gutsy Coach Training School, and I told Jenny, the amount for this investment is like a year's worth of tuition in my country for a good school. So that was a moonshot for me. But you know what? And I'm always very proud of this story. The moment I decided that I wanted to be a certified coach, just like her, being able to design my days as she did, which is a learning I got from Bob Proctor. He says, you find somebody who is living the life exactly the way you want to live, and you just copy and imitate their mindset and what they are doing. So that's what I did. I said, okay, let's work with Jenny. Let's become a coach, because after all of this, these things that I normally worry about will all be taken care of. And the funny thing is, and I shared this before, is that in the 5 months that I planned to pay for school, I was always generating income, more than enough for what the credit card bill brought me. And that had never happened before. So then I realized what clients need to do is to be very clear about what they want. Because when they decide, when when the conscious mind decides that, yes, I want a certain result, I want to be this kind of working mother, not separated from my children, earning an income that is more than what I ever earned, but working less than I ever have. That was specifically what I wanted. And sure enough, that's what I got. And the universe really does align once you decide. So I always ask clients that, what do you really want? And when they're able to articulate that in the questionnaire that we have during that discovery call, then I say, okay, let's work together, because I can work with that. I can work with a person who knows what she wants. And the programs that I have, like I have a mastermind of my own, and I have one-on-one clients. We work on the blocks. We work on what sometimes may be competing with that mindset. Mm-hmm. And then we create that environment to support what she really wants. So when a person knows what they really want, then they have freedom, because they've crossed that threshold of fear that's keeping them where they previously were, and their mindset has grown. One of my mentors, Gul Khan, she is a money mindset mentor. She says, once you break a person's mindset into the next level, they cannot go back, because they have already crossed a threshold. Kind of like when you go through a door in a big mansion, you can't unsee what's behind that door anymore. So it's the same with your mindset. The more doors you open and thresholds you pass through, the more you actually increase your possibility of getting what you want, the life that you want, the life that you want to create.
That's a great, great story. Yeah, I've studied with David Nagel, who's a mentee of Bob Proctor, and much of this is he always asks, what do you really want? That's always his first question. And I agree, you have to decide very specifically to know what you want, even if you don't know the how of how it's going to manifest.
That's right.
But you're basically placing your order with the universe. And the more specific you can be, the more, you're going to get what you really, really want.
Absolutely.
So good for you for basically in 2018 making that decision, not knowing where the money was going to come from, but you saying, Jenny is who I need to be with, and I need to model myself, and I need to be in her school. And then you were able to figure out how to pay for it by creating programs and getting more clients, and really pivoting to
while working less because of and this is the thing. If you get a coach, you want to be able to work with a coach who can support you in execution. I always say that there are certain coaches that seem to be what clients think are their babysitters, their adult babysitters, but then there are coaches who help you to execute. So this is like performance coaches. So performance coaches, they're not there to muck around and talk about how you feel. And, we do that. I do some of that. But performance coaches, people who train individuals like Michael Phelps and that sort of performance athlete, they are all about habitually doing the same thing every day and building up from that. I think that to have a good coach, you need to be with somebody who is willing to work with you on the habits and the behaviors, rewiring those so that you can form new ones. That's the most fulfilling thing when a client tells you that, 4 weeks ago, I wasn't thinking this way and I wasn't making decisions this way, but now that I am, I can't think of going back to the way things were. And that's when you know that people have truly chosen what they want, or they've really chosen to have freedom because they've created the habit. They've created the habit of making decisions and acting on them. And I think that word execution is really important, but you won't know how to execute unless you're confident that you've built up a certain habit that will take you forward. So I think that that's just very important.
Yeah, well, and I think back on, like, when you started, you were this teacher, right? And so a lot of what you're doing right now is teaching. The fact that you created a community with this co-working space for homeschoolers, that's, this is all coming forward, right? All of these things that you've done in the past that may have seemed disconnected, and even the lifestyle blogger, and the fact that you were able to, be successful as a lifestyle blogger in, in Southeast Asia and your part of the world. You understood how sort of the online marketing world works. You know, and you're able to bring that forward into what you're doing now. And I do think that, as awful as it is when you go through an existential crisis, and you truly are brought to your knees, the fact that you got self-development, which then led to network marketing, which then led to the mindset, which then led to the coaching. I mean, all of that had to happen in that order for it to be where you are today.
Absolutely. I don't believe that, it's cliche, but a lot of people say no regrets. But if we were to delete a part of our story in life, then we wouldn't be led to the people we were brought to serve, or who were brought to us to serve. And I really like to remember everything that I've gone through, even the difficult times. I did go through also a very deep spiritual experience when I decided that I was going to have an open spirituality versus a dogmatic one. So I grew up as a Christian, and I had that lifestyle from, I think, 9 years old all the way through my married life. But then there came a time where I also had to question the values of love and acceptance and freedom. And one of the things that I am most grateful for are the struggles and times of confusion that I had within my religion. I learned so much about how the world works and how resilient the human spirit is, and how we truly are spirits living in human bodies. I wouldn't have had that context. I wouldn't have had the appreciation for God, source, as we now call God, had I not gone through moments of spiritual confusion, even spiritual abuse. The turning point for me, Tracy, was when an elder of mine in the church said to me, if you leave the church, God will not give you your dreams. That was back in 2008, 4 months before my wedding, which was a time that was very crucial for me to make big decisions. So I said, there's something wrong with that. There is something wrong. I don't believe in a infinite intelligence, in a source that withholds the things that you desire. And I left. I left. I said, okay, let's test this. And I realized that when I stopped believing in that construct, in that there was this kind of like capricious God that would take away things just because you didn't meet certain conditions set by people, that you would not be blessed. But I have received everything that I asked for as a little girl. I have 2 children. I asked for 2 children, a boy and a girl. I have a boy and a girl. I asked for a lifelong partner that I would be in love with every day. I have that. My husband and I have been happily married 11 years, together for 15. I asked for a home that was simple and beautiful, that I love to wake up in. I've had 3 homes in my life that I have been able to design exactly in the way that supports me. And I've always been doing work that makes me come alive. So I said, I've disproved that. God shows up when you choose to go for what you want, and your intent is of the highest and greatest goodness. So that turning point for me kind of is why I say to people, Never wish that something didn't happen. Never wish that you could delete that episode in your life reel, because it would not make you into the person that you are, or into the person that the universe or God or whatever you call infinite intelligence. You will not be prepared for this particular stage or episode in the future had you not gone through that. And I think knowing this will allow people to get rid of a lot of anger. They'll be able to forgive easily. I teach forgiveness in my circles. Forgiveness is a huge piece that I really, really appreciate. And I have seen it invite abundance into people's lives in a very real way. I've seen how forgiveness has helped clients attract sources of income or wealth. That is something that I wish more companies and organizations knew about. If they could teach their employees how to forgive on a daily basis, how to let go of negative charges, imagine what it could do for a country. One of my desires here in the Philippines is to really maybe create a conference just on forgiveness, because I think that could elevate the consciousness of my people. A lot of my people are very angry, very, they're victimizing. They think they're the martyrs, right? But I think that if I'm able to be just one person that starts talking about this, and believe me, I've been ridiculed for this. Like, what? You know, we forgive, we go to confession, we have the church and everything, but I said, that's not it. There's no consciousness there. Those are just going through the motions. But if we are able to teach a generation how to let go of, how to forgive and let go of negative charges, imagine what that can do for a country. So that's why I get sometimes so passionate talking about it, because I've seen it happening in people's lives individually. And I'm just hoping that there will be a way to see it happening on a community level, on a national level. Mm-hmm. I think it's very, very important to develop myself in that as well, and to always work with people who are in that realm. That's why I make sure I'm always part of a circle on energy clearing, because I know I need that. And I know that that will help me to move forward with whatever I envision is this goal of collective consciousness.
Right. No, I think, absolutely. I think forgiveness is something that should be taught. And I think we don't not taught how to let go of those negative charges, and we either suppress them or we express them in unhealthy ways, or, you know, there's maybe some guilt and shame around some story that doesn't allow us to then forgive others or even forgive ourselves. Sometimes we don't even forgive ourselves for things that happen.
That's the deep work.
Right. So, yeah, so I love your story. I love kind of your vision for what you want to do and the mission that you are on, and the fact that you're teaching other women how to kind of move forward and create the environment, because the environment is so important. Your environment is so important.
Absolutely. A lot of people are realizing that there's this awakening happening. Like, you notice, I think the most prominent would be Oprah. When she started to do her Super Soul Sundays, people were realizing that the world is behaving differently than it did maybe a decade and a half ago.
Right.
It's become, I mean, to an extent, and I know this isn't the best way, but it's kind of become sexy to be mindful, right? It's kind of become sexy and cool to be mindful, but a lot of people might just be riding on the fact that it is sexy or cool or trendy. But this has been around for a long time. The most successful leaders in the world through time, whether living or dead, have always had a value of mindfulness. Richard Branson, for example, his belief is that work should be fun. That's it. And what he does in his culture is he makes sure that every company that he sets up people are having fun. People are on a high vibration, because when people are happy, they do the best work. Oprah, for instance, she started doing her Super Soul Sundays and bringing people to an awareness that the inner work, the work that you do on yourself, that is what's gonna express in your outer world and enable you to create the life that you love. She calls it live your best life. That is her tagline. And I think that we're coming into a time and space where on an individual level, people are realizing that your level of spiritual fitness is what is going to determine how you are going to thrive in the world that we have today. And you can choose to ignore it or reject it. I find that I still encounter people who ignore that it is happening, but to their detriment. You know, I have even close friends who believe that meditation is a bunch of, bull, right? But having never tried it themselves, they are basically negating what is happening more and more to the collective consciousness. And they're having a more difficult time than they are in, let's say 5 years ago, when the consciousness was not as apparent. So we can choose to accept that the world is coming into this place of awakening, or we can choose to reject. But then, based on our choices, what kind of life are we setting ourselves up for? I would go with really developing one's spiritual fitness and awareness. Because if you notice in the 80s, the aerobics craze or the diet craze was the trend in terms of wellness. And now it's normal. It's normal to have an exercise routine. It's normal to eat a plant-based diet, or at least it's becoming more normal. And now we are at that stage where spiritual fitness, if you could compare it to the 1980s, spiritual fitness is becoming a subject that more and more people are talking about, because more and more people are experiencing success from it. And I envision spiritual fitness and awareness to become the new normal, maybe 10 years from now. I think that I have this kind of optimism because I follow a lot of futurists like Jason Silva and Vishen Lakiani, these people who really believe that just by starting on a dream or on a vision that is seemingly ridiculous to the generation will be exactly what the next generation needs for their new normal. So I do this with my kids. My son has a coach. He has a coach for his age range. And 10 years ago, you wouldn't think that there would be personal development for children, but my son does have a coach and community for that. So what does that say? Maybe there's just one coach that is a motivational speaker for children, but 10 years from now, there could be an entire generation, an entire community of them around the world. Just like there's an entire community of spiritual entrepreneurs, of coaches to spiritual entrepreneurs. That seems very normal to us in this time and space in the world. And so that's why I believe that every day I wake up excited about another new idea that I might download or that might be revealed to me, whether by my colleagues or what I see happening around the world, or even by my children. My children inspire me to, with this path of unschooling, for instance. I have never put my child in a traditional school. And I think we've just had the most amazing life, not feeling the need to subscribe to a paradigm that is not agreeing with us. And I think that now, 9 years later, I'm able to nurture this new community in our country of unschoolers. I wouldn't have been able to envision that when I started unschooling my son, but now the time is right. There are people who have been doing it as long as I have. It's time to form that collective to start raising the consciousness again. And this is again an example of, the wellness trend in the 80s now being the new normal to have exercise in your day. Now I feel like there is momentum for all of these new ideas, new ways of schooling, new ways of developing yourself. We are pioneers. We are being laughed at, possibly ridiculed, but then it's because we have this vision that we are creating for the future, and it makes sense to those who are awakened to go through it despite ridicule and despite questioning, because history has proven itself before. And if we learn anything from the past, Steve Jobs said, here's to the crazy ones, to the misfits. I think that as more women come to be accepting of the fact that they can be misfits, they will be braver in the goals that they make and in the changes that they make in the world on a societal level, starting with their families, and then on a community level eventually.
Right. So we've talked a lot about kind of some of the stuff that you teach, a lot of the stuff that you've learned, but if I were to ask you what's the bravest thing you've ever done and how does it inspire you today, what would you say that is?
Oh, I would say one of the bravest things I've done on a consistent level is to step out of my current state of reality and create a new one. I did that in 2008 when I married my husband against a lot of people's opinions. I did that when I decided to never be employed. I've only been employed once. Ever since that, I've always created the work that I want to do and seem to have attracted the people to work with me. I did the same when I went through that crisis with postpartum and stepped into being a mentor and a coach. So I think that that's the bravest thing I've ever done, is step out of my current reality to create a new one. I hope that that's...
Well, the thing is, you had to have some kind of belief in yourself in order to do that, and some faith. And you also had to have courage in order to say, I'm going to create something new, a new reality, because this reality is not working for me.
Correct.
And so I think that that's extremely courageous to be able to do that, because it would have been easy to just stay in your current reality and not trust your gut and invest in yourself and make those pivots.
A lot of people, we do think maybe on a very unconscious level that life is about, just waking up, doing what you need to do, paying the bills, hopefully achieving some of the things on your vision board, and then going to sleep at night. But I think that that's something we can choose to live by. We can also choose to live by what we create in our minds. And I always say the mindset is like a thermostat. You alone have the power to raise it. It is not dictated by what's happening outside, but you can actually set the thermostat for your mindset. And so I think that if more people knew that, then they would see their lives as exciting every day. And this is not a fake kind of excitement where you just put it on and be like, was it Alec Baldwin on that very memorable episode of Friends? Like, oh my God, the highway is like, a golden path. It's not about that, but it's about, being able to face your day resiliently happy. I have a mom who has a chronic illness. I could mope around and say, well, she could die from this. But I don't. I have conversations with my mom that elevate her. The grandkids make her super happy. I think of things that make her happy. And even though she is going through a chronic illness, just by elevating her happiness, I don't make her forget that she has this, but I'm able to put her in that mood that she needs to go through another day and to thrive. And my mom, despite having, she has hypertension and is heavily medicated for it, she is still thriving and beautiful, youthful, I might say, despite that condition. And that's what I mean by resiliently happy. You can be living in a certain condition or with a certain challenge, but you are still resilient against life's many obstacles, and we will get a lot of them. But when we're aware that there will be those obstacles, we will be able to step into that awareness so that, okay, there's that hurdle.
Right.
Let's go jump over it. Or, hey, there's that roadblock. Okay, let's figure out a way to get it down. And that's what being resiliently happy, or in my world, making it blissful, is all about.
Right. No, I think you're spot on. I really do. And I think that it's great that you're being a little bit of a rebel rouser over there in Manila. And that's the assignment you said yes to. It really is. Yes.
And it's fun because people are popping up and saying, oh, I'm weird too. Like, I'm daring too. I'm unschooling too. And it's beautiful. And then I get to work with women who happen to also have brands that they want to be brave about and that they want to launch into the world. And I think that's my magic. My magic is really, let's work on the mindset. And then the business part, the marketing part, which is what I love marketing.
Right.
It doesn't become icky anymore because your mindset is on this thermostat. We're doing this to change some part of the world, my part of the world. And if I can be really, really good at that and really, really deliver for the people that I serve, I will be really, really happy.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much, Martine. I just wish you the best of luck, and thank you for being on the show, and appreciate you doing the work that you're doing out in the world.
I'm so happy. Thanks for having me, Tracy.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of Brave Girls with Tracy M. as much as I did creating it. Each show is produced with you, the listener, in mind, as you look for inspiration and motivation from other brave souls as you pursue your desires. I'd love to hear your feedback, so please leave me a review on iTunes. I read every one. And check out my website, tracym.com, for more free resources. You can also join my list and sign up for my newsletter right from the homepage. Until next time, stay strong, believe in your dreams, and go do something brave.
We appreciate you joining us for this episode of Brave Girls with Tracy M. and hope that you enjoyed the show. For more information about today's episode, as well as additional free resources to help you achieve greatness in your life, visit tracym.com and sign up for our mailing list. Until next time, dream big, believe in yourself, and let your brilliance shine as only you can do.